Is this V3? Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Monday, the 12th of January. Water woes. Kent reacts to further supply issues across the county as it causes school closures and strains on households.
We get by, but it's all very inconvenient and I have to say very third world.
A dangerous eyesore. Upnor residents say their estate management company Firstport are ignoring maintenance problems.
Yeah, it's just complete neglect. They're all admin, no action. We pay a lot of money in our maintenance charges and all we actually see is grass being cut.
And putting culture in the driver's seat. An artist opens his exhibition at the Royal Engineers Museum in Gillingham using race helmets to discuss migration.
While you are assimilating the new culture from where you are coming into, the helmet is a form of protection for you from the fast lane, from the new journey you're taking, the place of unknown where you're going to.
Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight. First, it's been called a dangerous eyesore with a collapsed fence and a landslide on Moat Lane in Upnor. But the residents say that these aren't the only issues they're experiencing while they're being charged £21,000 a year. They claim their estate management company Firstport are ignoring their claims to maintain the property well, while the company say that the first priority is maintenance of the area. To find out more, our local democracy reporter Ollie Leader went down to meet some of those residents.
It's a dangerous eyesore that's been left unrepaired on this Upnor estate since 2023. But this collapsed fence and landslip is far from the only problem people living along Moat Lane have been having with their estate management company Firstport, claiming maintenance problems are being ignored while they're collectively charged more than £21,000 a year.
Yeah, it's just complete neglect. They're all admin, no action. We pay a lot of money in our maintenance charges and all we actually see is grass being cut. You can see the neglect here. The actual first fence started leaning, I think it was January 22, and then we had the landslide in January 23. So 3 years later, all the landslide came down. They've done absolutely nothing apart from put up a Harris fence in which they've never attended to since. And of course, the cost of fixing the damage will only go upwards.
Looking around the estate, it actually does look quite nice. No complaints about grass cutting or hedge trimming. The big concern, though, is around estate management fees. People here say they're paying more and more each year and getting less and less in return.
Obviously, when we first moved in, we did have massive delays on the house due to the fact that Firstport wanted £3,000 from the previous tenant that she hadn't paid because she'd had problems with them. And then we moved in in 2018. Obviously, we were paying them, but gradually the price increase has really gone up.
A spokesperson for Firstport said their priority is to ensure that the areas they manage remain safe and well maintained. They say that while there have been delays as they determined who's responsible for the fence repair, this is now progressing and they will meet with residents next week to discuss further steps. But whatever challenges there are around fixing the embankment, repairing trust with those living here will be even more difficult. Ollie Leader in Upnor.
Next, a driver has been spared a prison sentence almost 2 years after he caused a car accident in Rochester that left a mum of two in a medically induced coma. Charanjit Singh Shakar crashed his car into Vanessa Wilkins in February 2024. She was badly injured and had a month-long stay in hospital, as well as a week of that was spent in a medically induced coma. She's been left with 30% lung capacity and heart damage. As well as a 4-year driving ban, Singh Shakar has also been ordered to complete 25 rehabilitation activity requirements and 180 hours of unpaid work. Vanessa has said she believes he deserves prison and doesn't think he got what he deserved for the damage he caused. Now, after water supply issues in Tunbridge Wells had ceased back in December of last year, many residents thought it would be left in 2025. But in pockets of the county, residents have yet again been seeing their taps run dry. Thousands of households in Kent and Sussex have been experiencing problems, with some schools shutting and Kent County Council declaring it as a major incident, as leaks, bursts and cold weather have been putting pressure not only on our pipes but on our homes as well. Chloe Brewster has been across the county to find out more about this issue.
We began today with 11 interruptions across the South East Water Network. At last check, there were 13. The series of outages across Tunbridge Wells, Maidstone and other localised areas has hit national headlines. I'm back in Tunbridge Wells, barely a month since the last bout of issues with South East Water. This time, however, the issues are much more widespread. It's 30,000 households across Kent and Sussex which have been without water. I'm here at Tunbridge Wells Rugby Club, which is handing out bottled water to those affected, something residents here are all too used to. While there in Tunbridge Wells, I learnt the South East Water team had actually run out of bottled water, with the only other station being all the way over in Ashford.
Luckily enough, we've got some little bit of water stored up, so we were able to use that to, make tea and stuff like that. But the biggest problem when you haven't got water is how do you wash? You can't clean your hands. Fortunately, we have a reasonable supply of bottled water, so we get by, but it's all very inconvenient and I have to say very third world.
Customers pay a standing charge. That standing charge isn't for the water, it's for the infrastructure to provide the water. So where is the money going? Why is it being left? Why are woefully inadequate local MPs not dealing with it? Because if it was a one-off occurrence, you can accept it. But this has been coming down the track for so long now. The previous government and the current government aren't demanding or being tenacious enough to ensure that we get what we're paying for.
The first news of a new wave of issues arose shortly after South East Water CEO David Hinton was questioned in the Commons by the EFRA committee. It was an ironic twist in a series of growing frustrations with the water company. It comes as Rosie Duffield, the MP for Canterbury, is the latest to join the list of South East MPs calling for the resignation of the South East Water boss. They joined Tunbridge Wells MP Mike Martin, who called for the boss to step down back when issues first arose in his constituency in December.
Once we've got water restored, then we're going to deal with South East Water. We're going to move into accountability mode, and there are a number of things that we're going to be looking at around resilience, crisis planning, communications. Really, there's been a leadership failure.
South East Water's incident manager, Matthew Dean, said, "We're sorry to our customers across Kent and Sussex who are experiencing issues with their drinking water supply, including no water, intermittent supply interruptions or low pressure. Following the recent cold weather and a subsequent breakout of leaks and bursts across Kent and Sussex, our drinking water storage tanks are running very low. We're incredibly sorry to all customers and businesses who've been impacted by this, and we're doing all we can to restore supplies as soon as possible." And as the pressure goes up from the Commons, people impacted here in Kent are hoping they see it from their taps too. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Tunbridge Wells.
Well, I am joined now by Councillor Mark Hood. Mark should be joining me. There you are, Mark. Sorry, lost you for a second there. Thank you for joining us. And first of all, you've been very vocal on this issue, and I'd first of all like to give you the opportunity to sum up what you've been hearing from residents about this.
Well, it's just hugely frustrating, isn't it? It affects all walks of life. It affects things like daycare centres. It affects schools. They can't open up. It's a fundamental requirement. And I just think that South East Water don't seem to be able to learn from their mistakes. We're just seeing this occurring right across the county. So it is massively frustrating. The communication has been abysmal. We thought that they got a little bit better in that respect, but it seems that they're not learning any of their lessons, and we need a fundamental change, and that change has to start with the resignation of Dave Hinton.
I see, and we can see some images now on our screens of some of these affected families that are going down and having to pick up this bottled water. You mentioned the resignation of CEO David Hinton, something that's been widely discussed in, I'm sure, not just council halls, but the House of Commons as well. In your opinion, would the resignation of CEO David Hinton make any significant change towards getting our water services back to where people want them to be?
Well, I think somebody who's on the salary that he is has to bear some responsibility. When he appeared in Parliament to account for the performance of his company, he didn't seem to take any responsibility at all for their underperformance. So if he doesn't bear responsibility, if it doesn't fall on his shoulders, who does it? Whose shoulders should it fall on? And to be fair, it's a systemic problem within the water industry, it seems, and we're calling for the water industry to be brought back into public ownership, because we want to see every single penny of profit that is made by these companies ploughed back into the infrastructure to make sure that we can sort out the leaks, we can sort out the multitude of burst pipes because the whole system seems to be so fragile. When you're running out of supplies of bottled water, and you're unable to man those bottled water stations, I think there's something seriously amiss.
Mark. We haven't got much time, and I do just really quickly want to raise the point that some might defend the water companies here by saying that this is an unforeseen weather event that's caused some of these. Very quickly, what do you have to say to that?
Well, was it an unforeseen event in the summer? Was it an unforeseen? We had this in Tunbridge, then we had it in Whitstable earlier in the summer, earlier in the year, and then we had it in. This isn't just about weather.
I do have to cut you off. I'm afraid we are out of time. Thank you for joining me, though.
It's fair enough.
Hello and welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now let's start off this part of the show by taking a look at the sports news from around the county with this week's Sports Roundup. Let's have a look. Well, first up in our football news, after scoring the winner against Carlisle United in the FA Trophy, Chatham Town's Matty MacArthur has spoken on his comeback after leaving Gillingham. He certainly found his form, scoring from 25 yards out in the 1-0 victory. He was quoted as saying, "Scoring goals as an attacker or assisting them is key for me in making my way up the ranks." After being released by Gillingham, he's played for numerous non-league clubs, including Kent's own Dartford and Tunbridge Angels. Chatham manager Kevin Hake said, "He's been unbelievable since coming here. We love young players and he's got so much potential." Next to rugby now, and Tunbridge Juddians triumphed over the Dings Crusaders in a close 36-31 victory in National League One. The weather certainly made itself known, raining down, which forced a switch of the pitch, with the Judd School's Visits 3G pitch that ended up hosting the action instead of the Slade. Jimmy Staples, Finlay Cunnington and Sam Evans didn't let a change of venue dishearten them, putting them up early with a 14-0 lead. The Dings hit back with 3 tries and 2 conversions. As the game went on, Dings got a yellow, putting them down to 14 men. Continuing on, the Judds found a try and a conversion, bringing it to 21-19, and that looks like they managed to wrap up the match, even going to 28-24, but pulling it back with a penalty for the final score, seeing them move up to 6th behind the Rams. Next to football, we will have a look at Ebbsfleet United. Unfortunately for them, it was a loss as they lost 2-0 to Forest Green Rovers. David Kerslake said he was pleased by the performance, but it did mean being knocked out in the FA Trophy. He added, "We couldn't have asked for any more and we shifted the ball from side to side, working on it all week, that is switches of play." He also added, "I think we've created enough chances to win the game, but they haven't been clinical." And for our final football story, Maidstone United goalkeeper Nathan Harness is expected to be back from injury to face Torquay. This comes after sustaining an injury against Brentwood friendly in a town, which Maidstone did win 5-1 on Saturday. He landed badly after racing out to clear the ball. In his place is Lenny Holden, but assistant manager Craig Fagan expects him to be available at Plainmoor. That's all for your sports news. Now for a quick look at the weather. Kent will see cloudy skies across the county tonight, temperatures reaching highs of 10 degrees in Maidstone and Dover, lows of 9. Now going into the morning, temperatures staying much the same, though some light rain is expected for Medway and the Ashford area as we move into the afternoon now. Rain continuing in Dartford, cloudy skies returning across the rest of the area, highs of 11 degrees. And here's your outlook. Wednesday will bring some sunshine, highs of around 7 degrees. Rain returning on Thursday, temperatures reaching up to 10. And on Friday, temperatures expected to dip slightly, highs of 9. And don't forget, you can keep up to date with all your latest stories across Kent on our website. There you'll find all our reports, including this one, all about an animal sanctuary in Eynsford reopening to visitors after a temporary closure.
Taking to the skies is usually a regular task for birds like bald eagle phoenix, but an outbreak of avian flu has meant she's had to stay grounded for a few months. Great Britain became an avian influenza prevention zone in November, with the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs applying mandatory measures to house birds inside. 4 sites in Kent saw infection towards the end of 2025, prompting Eagle Heights Wildlife Foundation to take the difficult decision to close to visitors to safeguard the animals, keeping Crystal Palace celebrity Phoenix on his perch for now.
We've been open now for coming up on 30 years. It's actually our 30th anniversary this year, so we're very excited about that. We are here to give people a good day out and be entertaining, but mostly we are here to look after the animals. And that's our number one priority when it really comes down to it. And having these birds out and about, obviously once they're out, we are in control of them in terms of their training, but we're not in control of exactly where they go. They're in the trees, they're going off on the roofs and wherever they really feel like landing. And that gets them in contact with all sorts of wild bird influence, mostly, what other wild birds poop, to put it bluntly. and that is the #1 transmitter of avian influenza.
But tomorrow, the foundation will reopen following confirmation there have been no recent local outbreaks and after a negative avian flu result of a deceased wild bird found on site.
Without proper precautions, it's getting more and more real, to be honest. You know, bird flu has always been a thing. It's always been around. It comes and goes every winter. But we've never had serious cases this far south, at least not for a very long time. So it's become scarier and scarier, really, as it goes on. And with proper precautions and you know, some hard decisions, you can be pretty safe. But without that, we could have been in trouble.
While the centre will be reopening for visitors from tomorrow, some of the bird-related attractions will remain closed to protect the safety of the wildlife here.
We are still going to be keeping the birds locked down a little bit for now until we can have the housing order lifted, which is going to allow us to then be able to do our flying displays again and bring the birds out for more regular exercise and, you know, all back to normality. So we are reopening, but with still some restrictions in place to keep them safe.
As the foundation preps the animals for socialising, they say they're looking forward to seeing the birds take flight once again. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Ainsford.
Now, Canterbury City Council have launched a free winter parking scheme for its residents in Herne Bay and Whitstable. Drivers with a residence rate permit will be able to park free of charge in certain car parks in Herne Bay on Wednesdays in Whitstable and on Thursdays in Herne Bay and Wednesdays in Whitstable. The council says this should support shops and businesses during the off-season. Steve Keeler from the Whitstable Community Museum joined us earlier to share his thoughts about the plans. Thank you so much for joining me, Steve. First of all, before we get into the specifics of the parking, tell us a bit about what you do at the museum.
I'm one of the trustees of the museum. We're a small charitable concern that has just a small number of trustees, quite a few, about 60 to 80 volunteers, so pretty good from the support side of it. We took over 10 years ago from Canterbury City Council, and we effectively run it, although with a bit of their help as well. At the moment, we're in half a museum because we've got half of it being rebuilt, restructured, etc. So our plans for that is all good. Come about March, April.
I see, and I'm not sure exactly what to call it, but there seems to be some sort of mannequin or statue behind you. Tell us a bit about the exhibits the museum show.
One of the exhibits is the Invicta railway engine, which is what you can see behind us. The guy on the top is that would have been his job driving that train in 1830. That remains here in Whitstable, working the Whitstable end of the Whitstable to Canterbury line for about 7 or 8 years, and then got sort of laid off. It spent a lot of time in Canterbury outside on display for decades. It came here about 7 years ago, I suppose now. It's been on display ever since. Right. Also, we've got because we're a diving industry here, diving helmet was first invented in Whitstable. So we've got a nice story to tell about that. We've got the first fire engine that was built in Whitstable. All good stuff there. We've got archaeology of Whitstable. We've got a lot of maritime at the moment, not so much because we've got it all closed off. We certainly have a good display, bit of pushing. Again, at the moment, that's just a small display just to show a sampler until we actually get the museum up and running again. We've also had
sorry to cut you off. I'm just curious. So, tell me about how things tend to be in terms of footfall with visitors, especially over these winter months. And whether you think that some free parking in Whitstable might help with that.
Certainly, the number of visitors that we've got since we've been half closed, because we're advertising it as free. The footfall has actually gone up. But generally, winter time is a lot quieter. There's less visitors. We still get the regulars coming in on a regular basis. Certainly, having free parking on one day would certainly make it busier. I suspect on the Thursday, it may shift it from the Friday to the Thursday. Who knows?
I see. And yeah, like you mentioned there, it is only on the Thursdays between a selected period. Reading through the scheme that Canterbury Council put forward, it does seem that the scheme only applies to residents in Canterbury. Do you foresee that sort of limiting the ability of it there? Would you prefer to see it more generally, that people could come from different parts of the country or different parts of the county even? Do you think that would be better for businesses?
That sort of shows, certainly for the businesses, the locals will come, drive down, park up and use the shopping facilities. Whether they're coming to the museum, not quite actually sure. Visitors coming from afar, if it's not applicable to them, will be coming down anyway. So they may park on the road somewhere else. If this was free for them, they just park closer.
I see, and you've mentioned before that you get more business. It tends to be, as you mentioned, on the weekend there. So do you think it's going to really kind of drag those numbers up to earlier in the week, maybe families, especially, you know, as we're in these winter months, less people in the holidays? Tell me about what you estimate, if the scheme, you know, goes forward in this way, how it might help.
It can't not help. It can only be a positive thing, even if it does bring down a few other people thinking it's a wet, rainy day. What should we do today? Actually, we can drive down, park up. It's not going to cost us anything. We can go into the museum. So hopefully, yeah, that will certainly assist.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. Well, it is now time for a short break. We'll be looking more at the water issues currently all around Kent. We'll have that and more after a few minutes' time. See you soon. Hello and welcome to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. I'm Finn McDermott and here are your top stories on Monday, the 12th of January. Water woes. Kent reacts to further supply issues across the county as it causes school closures and strains on households.
We get by, but it's all very inconvenient and I have to say very third world.
A dangerous eyesore. Upnor residents say their estate management company First Port are ignoring maintenance problems.
Yeah, it's just complete neglect. They're all admin, no action. We pay a lot of money in our maintenance charges and all we actually see is grass being cut.
And putting culture in the driver's seat. An artist opens his exhibition at the Royal Engineers Museum in Gillingham using race helmets to discuss migration.
While you are assimilating the new culture from where you are coming into, the helmet is taking its form of protection for you from the fast lane, from the new journey you're taking, the place of unknown where you're going to.
Now, after water supply issues in Tunbridge Wells had ceased back in December of last year, many residents thought it would be left in 2025. But in pockets of the county, residents have yet again been seeing their taps run dry. Thousands of households in Kent and Sussex have been experiencing problems, with some schools shutting and Kent County Council even declaring it as a major incident, as leaks, bursts and cold weather have been putting pressure not just on our pipes, but on our county as well. Chloe Brewster's been finding out more.
We began today with 11 interruptions across the South East Water network. At last check, there were 13. The series of outages across Tunbridge Wells, Maidstone and other localised areas has hit national headlines. I'm back in Tunbridge Wells, barely a month since the last bout of issues with South East Water. This time, however, the issues are much more widespread. It's 30,000 households across Kent and Sussex which have been without water. I'm here at Tunbridge Wells Rugby Club, which is handing out bottled water to those affected, something residents here are all too used to. While there in Tunbridge Wells, I learnt the South East Water team had actually run out of bottled water, with the only other station being all the way over in Ashford.
Luckily enough, we've got some little bit of water stored up, so we were able to use that to, make tea and stuff like that. But the biggest problem when you haven't got water is how do you wash? You can't clean your hands.
Fortunately, we have a reasonable supply of bottled water, so we get by, but it's all very inconvenient and I have to say very third world.
Customers pay a standing charge. That standing charge isn't for the water, it's for the infrastructure to provide the water. So where is the money going? Why is it being left? Why are woefully inadequate local MPs not dealing with it? Because if it was a one-off occurrence, you can accept it. But this has been coming down the track for so long now. The previous government and the current government aren't demanding or being tenacious enough to ensure that we get what we're paying for.
The first news of a new wave of issues arose shortly after South East Water CEO David Hinton was questioned in the Commons by the EFRA committee. It was an ironic twist in a series of growing frustrations with the water company. It comes as Rosie Duffield, the MP for Canterbury, is the latest to join the list of South East MPs calling for the resignation of the South East Water boss. They joined Tunbridge Wells MP Mike Martin, who called for the boss to step down back when issues first arose in his constituency in December.
Once we've got water restored, then we're going to deal with South East Water. We're going to move into accountability mode, and there are a number of things that we're going to be looking at around resilience, crisis planning, communications. Really, there's been a leadership failure.
South East Water's incident manager, Matthew Dean, said, "We're sorry to our customers across Kent and Sussex who are experiencing issues with their drinking water supply, including no water, intermittent supply interruptions or low pressure. Following the recent cold weather and a subsequent breakout of leaks and bursts across Kent and Sussex, our drinking water storage tanks are running very low. We're incredibly sorry to all customers and businesses who've been impacted by this, and we're doing all we can to restore supplies as soon as possible." And as the pressure goes up from the Commons, people impacted here in Kent are hoping they see it from their taps too. Chloe Brewster for KMTV in Tunbridge Wells.
Next, Kent County Council are proposing to increase their council tax by 3.99% in their draft budget. Now, this figure sits at 1% below the cap set by the government, but this has led to warnings that this might cause cuts to services. We spoke to Rob Bailey, our politics presenter, about how the budget was covered on the show and what Kent's politicians have been saying about the budget.
We had Councillor Mark Hood, who's the leader of the Greens at Kent County Council, on the show. He's called the council short-termist and performative in the way that they've set this budget about. His concern is that they've done something that's designed to look good ahead of the May elections, which are happening all over the country, and where an awful lot of people will be looking at what reform have achieved in Kent before they put an X in their reform ballot box in other parts of the country. He thinks that this is a kind of electioneering kind of decision. The Conservatives at Kent County Council have called it irresponsible. They think that it would have been the right thing to do to ask Kent residents to pay more. But as we say, this is all about a political calculation. Reform told residents in Kent that they could deliver the same level of service for less tax. The question now is whether they can do it now that they've set themselves that task.
I see. We can hear a bit from Councillor Bill Barrett. He's with the Independent Reformers Group about the budget. Now, bear in mind, this does come before the draft was released. So this is a preemptive statement, but let's have a listen now.
My message to the Reform leadership is quite simply this. Whatever cuts are going to be made over the next 8 weeks, whatever cuts are going to be decided upon, those cuts will impact the people out there, the residents. And those cuts have to be minimised as much as possible so that those cuts aren't felt as deeply as otherwise would be felt. The budget is not in a good situation at the moment. I don't see, even if it is a balanced budget, that it gets much better in the coming months. There's already a big overspend this year. There's a budget gap that has to be found within this draft budget, which obviously we'll all debate in February. So just minimise the pain to the people of Kent as much as humanly possible.
He mentions minimising the pain to the people of Kent. Lyndon Kimcairn, the leader of Kent County Council, says that the council was saddled with more than £700 million of debt, and they're now on track to deliver £100 million in savings, and they've reprofiled spending and reduced debt by £67 million. On that pain, do you think that the council has found this savings gap? And what do you think about foreseeing that kind of pain for locals?
Well, I think the interesting thing here is the timing issue as much as anything else. I mean, Bill Barrett's saying that there's going to be a meeting in February there and that councillors are poring over the details of this, worrying about cuts. Normally, a budget of this complexity is published in November in a draft form, and councillors start looking at it and going through the detail of it, and they have about 3 months to do that before the final decision is made. This has been delayed this year. We've got it in January. There's about 6 weeks for councillors to go through the fine detail of this budget and work out whether the bottom line actually works and where the cuts are going to come. And that's an incredibly short timescale, and it worries quite a few people about the level of scrutiny that there might be on that. Inevitably, there are going to be cuts with a budget gap to fill. And the interesting thing is that the cuts can't come in certain areas. There are certain things that councils have to do, statutory functions that they cannot reduce, which leaves a certain number of places like libraries, parks, household waste recycling centres, those kinds of things which are optional services that are run by a council where cuts can be made. And there's going to be a lot of scrutiny to see on those areas which have been threatened in the past, which were often threatened when the Conservatives were in charge of KCC, about whether some of those things will be reduced.
I see. Thank you so much for your time, Rob. Next, the development company Skylark Kent has won a long-running battle to build 27 homes in the village of Graveney near Faversham. This is despite fierce opposition and the plan previously being rejected by Swale Borough Council. Well, our reporter Naila Mohammed is here to tell us more about this battle. So what has it really all been about?
Well, you're correct in saying that it is a long battle. It's been going on since 2023 when Swale Borough Council rejected the initial 2 plans. And what happened is the developer wants to... There are 2 sites in Graveney, which is near Faversham, that the developers want to build these houses on. One's a larger one, one's a smaller site. Both sites have been rejected by Swale Borough Council. However, there has been an appeal about this, and the Planning Inspectorate has overturned the council's decision on the larger site, and they've agreed to 27 houses being built on Sea Salter Road, which you can see on the screen here next to me. So that's what's been going on at the moment.
I see. And we saw some images there, some of these maps showing where exactly these homes would be built. And we also saw some of the people who might be affected. Tell us, what are residents saying about this development?
They're not happy. They don't really want it. I mean, right next to where they are at the moment, there's already a huge solar panel farm. You know, it's 900 acres of land, over 800,000 solar panels, and they said there's a battery the size of 20 football pitches. So it's a lot of land already taken up for solar panels. They don't want more housing. And in their own words, they said it's a waste of time, it's a waste of space, and it's a waste of money. And the council also said that having these developments put on their land isn't going to do anything to an area that's already under so much pressure in terms of its services.
I see. Very quickly, what have the planning inspectorate said on this?
Well, they've had the complete opposing view. They think, well, there's no evidence to say that the new housing developments will put a strain on what's already there. And the developers who they have said they will give a set amount of money, £320,000 to Kent County Council and to the NHS to help support the healthcare, to help support libraries and schooling. So they're very much trying to encourage the residents and be like, you know, this is not a bad opportunity at all.
I see. It's a story that we're seeing a lot across Kent at the moment. Thank you so much for your time, Naila. It's now time for a quick break, but stay tuned for more, including a chat with Joanne Taylor. She started a petition on stroke services that's being taken from Kent and Canterbury Hospital to the William Harvey Hospital in Ashford. We will also take a quick look at an exhibition in the Royal Engineers Museum, all about using art to represent the feeling of migration. All that after this short break. Welcome back to Kent Tonight, live here on KMTV. Now, over 800 people have signed a petition opposing plans to move stroke services out of Kent and Canterbury Hospital. This comes as proposals for a new 54-bed stroke unit in Ashford's William Harvey Hospital have been revealed as part of a plan to centralise their stroke services. However, this has sparked concerns about increased travel times to specialist care services for residents in East Kent. We spoke with Joanne Taylor, who started the petition earlier today. Thank you so much for joining me, Joanna. First of all, when did you first realise that the stroke services were moving from Canterbury to the William Harvey in Ashford, and what was your initial reaction?
Well, I saw a piece in Kent Online on Thursday, and it just, when I read it, it just really shocked me. And I looked at it and I read it and I thought, no, this can't happen. We need to fight it to stay at Kent and Canterbury. We need it central.
Now, tell me, why did you have that specific reaction? What was it that worried you about these plans?
Well, it's not good news for anyone that lives in Canterbury or the surrounding villages, Whitstable, Herne Bay, Thanet, Dover, Folkestone. And taking this service away from Canterbury means much longer travel times.
Joanna, I'm aware that you have a story, an incident where someone very close to you, their life was saved at KMT Hospital. So tell me a bit about that experience and how that's really shaped the petition and your passion for this.
In 2015, someone very close to me had what we thought was a heart attack, a major heart attack again. I had 3 ambulances and 5 paramedics working on him. They got him in the ambulance. I could hear on the radio, William Harvey, then I could hear KMT. Anyway, they took him to KMT. As soon as he got there, they gave him a clot-busting injection. And when the next day, he was sent up to St Thomas's by ambulance, and they said it had been a blood clot in one of his main arteries, and that clot-busting injection dispersed it. So for me, on a personal note, KMT saved his life. Canterbury is just, it's so easy to get to. There have been times when travelling to Margate that there's been an accident, the road's been shut, you can't get there. The population in Canterbury has grown a lot, and all these villages, all these new housing sites that are popping up everywhere. I don't think this has been put into consideration. As I know, there was a consultation in 2019, but they ignored campaigners and chose William Harvey. Campaigners said that it was wrong, and as I said, during COVID, it was brought back, and without any doubt, they saved more lives, especially from Thanet. And that was then. This is now 2026, and we can't lose it.
A spokesperson for East Kent Hospital's University NHS Foundation said, "We're fully committed to providing outstanding care and outcomes of stroke services for patients across East Kent. This includes delivering the hyper-acute stroke unit at the William Harvey Hospital, and we are working closely with the ICB to finalise these plans for a 54-bed purpose-built unit. In the meantime, the stroke unit at the Kent and Canterbury Hospital continues to provide services, and stroke outcomes for patients are consistently among the best nationally." And now a new exhibition titled Reflection is on display at the Royal Engineers Museum until the 22nd of March. Nigerian visual artist Abolor Sabayo uses helmets as a metaphor for the complex realities of migration and takes inspiration from his home country, Nigeria, and his own personal experiences. Our reporter Naila Mohammed went to the exhibition to find out more.
What does self-protection look like when you're new to an environment that's unfamiliar?
Well, for Nigerian visual artist Abolore Sabayo, self-protection comes in the form of a helmet. In his latest art series, Reflection, Abolore explores how the helmet, or akoto in Yoruba, can be used as a metaphor for the complex realities of migration. This exhibition is in the Royal Engineering Museum in the heart of Medway. Now, the artist has taken inspiration from Formula One helmets, which are known for being bash and colourful and full of messages from the drivers and their sponsors. In this instance, the artist uses the helmet as a way to convey his message about his perspective on migration to the Kent community.
Most of the people, when you talk about migration, focuses only on people seeking asylum, which migration for me is far beyond that. For migrants, the element is to protect your cultural identity while you are assimilating the new culture from where you are coming into. The element is a form of protection for you from the fast lane, from the new journey you're taking, the place of unknown where you're going to.
Abolore uses Nigeria, his home country, and his own personal experiences as a migrant as inspiration for some of his artwork. And in the visor of the helmet, he paints a reflection of a memory or a reality a migrant may face while living away from home. Members of the museum thought the exhibition is important to the many communities in Kent.
It's opening up this community to other people. So a lot of the idea of this space is to get people who don't have a place to display their work or to display their ideas, to give them this space within the heart of Medway. And it really opens up an audience, a new audience.
Abolore hopes that his exhibition can encourage communities to reflect on the emotional and cultural layers of migration, and to also consider what we would choose to protect when we enter the unknown. Naina Mohammed for KMTV.
And finally, we were joined earlier by Whitstable-based author David F. Reed, who shared the significance behind his new book, Running with the Devil, earlier with me today. The novel centres on a grieving mother reopening the investigation of her son's abduction in Oxford Street on Christmas Eve, upon meeting with a mystery figure that's tied to the missing persons case. David is based in Whitstable and even drew on his own knowledge of missing persons cases to write the book. Let's find out more.
It's about how after that, her life completely freezes until she has a kind of an interaction with a mysterious stranger who is linked to her son's disappearance, and they team up to then try and help find the truth behind what happened to her son.
I see, and you're based in Whitstable, and the book is loosely inspired by your time working on documentaries about these missing persons cases. What aspects of that line of work have you tried to portray in the book that you feel people don't realise, or that you feel is worth kind of bringing up and talking about?
Sure, I think, well, there's two aspects really. I tried to be as accurate as I could to a kind of how a missing persons case is run by the police. But also I wanted to focus more on a longer term case, because I think in film and TV and books, you see a lot of stories about missing persons cases in the immediate term. So someone has literally just gone missing, whereas it's never really focused on the longer term cases, which I think is an interesting aspect to explore, because these are sons and daughters, fathers, mothers that are going missing, and the effect it has on the rest of the family is it basically puts their life on pause. And I met a lot of these people who are going through this tragedy, and the one thing to them that they would always say is the not knowing. So they're constantly, every doorbell ring, every phone call could be this news that they're waiting for, and this can go on for months, years. And you don't see a lot of that, and I think it's a really interesting thing to look at, and hopefully the book kind of conveys that and uses it as a kind of a jumping off point for a larger narrative.
I see, and in your work, these must have been difficult interviews to conduct. Did you find while you were writing the book there was any kind of difficulty, and obviously it's such an emotionally difficult topic to talk about. Tell me about the experience of writing the book.
I think I obviously didn't want to take anything from any cases that I dealt with, in real life, but I think it was the feeling of how devastating this can be, and trying to make sure that was got across, but in a kind of, not in a sensationalised way, to make it feel as real as possible, to try and put the reader in that position rather than, as I say, sensationalise or kind of just turn it into a kind of a plot device.
From my knowledge, you worked with documentary crews about these cases. Tell us a bit about the kind of scope of that.
So it was quite a long time ago when I did it now, but it was working with the charity Missing People, who try and publicise missing people cases all over the country. So I was based in Hackney on a kind of day-to-day basis, working with the police, riding around in their car, trying to work on quite immediate cases. But also we would then travel the country, it's all the way up to Scotland, all the way down to kind of Cornwall and Devon, meeting families who have been affected by family members or, friends who have disappeared and just, they've gone to get the bus one day and they've just not come home. And doing that, I think it is absolutely devastating for these people. And